Good morning. Sam and Frank Connor have some handouts, so there's some sheets that are aimed at some of our younger members. So if our younger kids can read and write, then these sheets are for you. So if you'll raise your hand, parents or kids, and Frank and Sam will get you a sheet. I made 60 of them. Hopefully there's enough. And parents, feel free to help your kids with that as we go along. Did we turn this one off yet? Yes. So go ahead and raise your hands and they'll get around to you. All right. So here's the mystery slide that Andrew decided to try to hide from you last Sunday. I don't know what his ulterior motive was. Now, this is the slide that sort of gives you an idea of where we're going, right? When we talk about strengthening our faith, we're talking about this focus on exploring what faith really is. It's the why behind why would we put the effort into bearing the image of God, and that's faith. And so we're looking at three main categories, and it's not going to always fit exactly into these boxes, but our goal will be, and it's not even on a monthly basis, but our goal will be to explore evidences of faith, to look at reasons to believe, to look at the evidence God has given us that we can trust that He will do what He's promised to do. And then we're going to look at tested faith, the value and purpose of testing our faith, studies of specific faith-testing tribulations. I think it's something we all have in common, and maybe our test looks a little bit different from the person sitting next to us, but we're all tested. And really, you don't grow in faith unless your faith is tested. And then faith in action. We're going to try to be very practical as well. What does it look like to walk by faith? What does it look like to actually live out your faith? This morning, we're actually going to start with a very simple question. We're starting at one of the very basic questions when we think about faith. One of the basic questions when we think about just our existence in general. Are we here by design or is it an accident? And don't worry, I'm not going to get real deep into stuff because I'm not even capable of that. But I think this is a question that has always come up at least sometime in everybody's life. Is this life by design? Was there intelligent design behind it? Is there purpose to it? Or is it just an accident? Some people say a happy accident. Some people say an unhappy accident. I guess it depends on your circumstances. But is it just random? Is it just it just happenstance? Is there no meaning at all? And the very fact that we actually consider this kind of a question separates us from other animals, doesn't it? I put animals in quotes because I don't really consider myself an animal. I was created in the image of my Father. But it separates us. I don't picture dogs walking around going, why am I here? We know the answer was to eat bacon. But we don't picture the goldfish in the bowl wondering, is this all there is? Now, I know we've got dog lovers. I don't mean to be offensive, but there's been a lot of data that shows that your dog, no matter how much you think it does, doesn't actually love you. It's just responding to stimulus. But the fact that we ask this question, is it design or is it intelligent design? Is there purpose? Is there meaning? Or is it just an accident? Separates us from other flesh and blood on this earth. God actually says creation is to point us, is to help us search, is for us to start to answer that question. We know this passage, Romans 1 verse 20, for since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made so that they are without excuse. His creation should point us towards Him. We should look around, we should see the creation, we should observe what's around us, and it should make us look for Him. It should make us understand something about Him. I love the way Psalm chapter 19 says it. In Psalm chapter 19, verse 1, it says, the heavens are telling of the glory of God, and their expanse is declaring the work of His hands. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. Their line or their sound has gone out through all the earth, and their utterances to the end of the world. I love the imagery. It says the heavens are declaring the glory of God, and their expanse is telling of the glory of God, and their expanse is declaring the work of His hands. Day to day they pour forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. Verse 3, there aren't actually words. When you look at the heavens, when you look at the creation around you, it's not screaming words at you, but yet it's screaming something at you. Their sound or their line goes forth telling you something. And that's the question we're going to ponder. Is this by design? Does creation lead us to believe that there's intelligent design, or is it just an accident? Now, I'm not a PhD, an MD, a CPA, and I'm not a member of the AARP. In other words, I don't have a whole bunch of initials behind my name, but I did have a good night's sleep last night, and I am a Purdue grad, so, there's something. And there are probably, well, not probably, there are, I guarantee, a lot more qualified people to talk about this subject. But what I am is just a simple, common sense kind of guy. And so I want to approach this topic, and we're just going to slowly dip our toe into it today. And there'll be future lessons. In fact, there will be future lessons where people that are much smarter and much more well-versed in some of these debates lead us through this information. But I approach things very simple. Do you understand what the difference between a criminal trial and a civil trial is? One of the first differences is a criminal trial is usually against the state or against society. You did something. I don't want to raise hands. There are probably people here who have experience with criminal trials. That's not a joke. We all come from different places. But it's usually when you violated something that's considered against the state or against society, they take you to trial. A civil trial is often private disputes. I said that John, ruined my front yard because he drove his bulldozer through, and I'm taking him to court because he's refusing to pay for it, and that sort of thing. We're suing each other. But one of the other major differences is how you approach the evidence. In a criminal trial, the jury examines the evidence to decide whether beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime in question. The burden of proof is much, much greater in a criminal trial. In a civil trial, it's the preponderance of evidence is based on the more convincing evidence and its probable truth or accuracy, and not on the amount of evidence. In fact, they say, what is the best evidence and what's it leading me to believe? Now, this is not a perfect analogy, but this helps my brain, my simple brain, think. When we start to talk about the question of, is this by design or is this by accident? When I look at creation, when I look at God's creation, when I look at is there design there? What's the evidence leading me to? What's the preponderance of evidence? There will always be room for doubt. Why is that? There's always going to be a really strong argument saying something different. It's that word faith. There's always going to be room for us to have to take a step or two or three of faith. But what's the preponderance of evidence? When we look at things, when we look at creation, what's it leading us towards? And that's sort of how I approach this subject. It's not a perfect analogy, but it's a simple way of understanding it. I'm not looking for, finding the holy grail of evidence that shows me, look, there's a Polaroid, it's God on his throne. It's case closed. Nowadays, that doesn't even mean anything, right? We can fake pictures. But what's the preponderance of evidence? What's the bulk of the evidence link? What's the most logical conclusion? And we're going to start a little closer to home. So I don't know about you, but when we talk about creation, when we talk about creation leads us towards God, it points us towards our Creator. I don't know what your place is. When I think about creation, I think about the mountains. I have the sense of awe, the most heightened sense of awe when I'm climbing and backpacking in the mountains. When I'm looking at the grandeur and the vast difference between the valley floor and the top of the mountains. I'm just in awe. I don't know what your place is. Maybe it's the ocean. If you've ever stood on the cliffs and watched a storm come in on the ocean, it's absolutely amazing. Maybe it's on a lake. Maybe it's walking through the forest and the woods. Maybe it's just in your garden with your fingers in the dirt. For Steve Verzoon, I'm pretty sure it's sitting in his house watching the squirrels wreak havoc. But what's your place? So when we think of about the outside world, your place, my place, I'm sure there's some overlap, but it might be different. But we're going to start a little bit closer to home. We're going to talk about our own bodies. So this morning, what we're going to do, we're going to explore how we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Thank you, Sam, for that reading. In that reading, David is just pondering the omniscience of God. God, where can I go to hide from? You're everywhere. So God's knowledge is just so expansive. In fact, verse 13, and kids on your sheet, this is the first little blank you can fill out. Verse 13 and 14. For you formed my inward parts, you wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. We're going to contemplate our own flesh and blood. That's what we all have in common. You might be an ocean guy, I'm a mountain guy, but we all have flesh and blood. I don't know what your relationship with your physical body is. When you're younger, especially really young, you really don't even know it's there. You don't know whether you got clothes on or not. You don't care. You're just walking around. No big deal. There's some point when you become aware of your physical body, and then that's an interesting moment for your parents. But then there's this whole body image thing we go through, and maybe your relationship with your body is you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too skinny, your nose is too big, your ears are too big. Maybe you can want to volunteer. Do you think you're just the perfect human specimen? Feel free to. I'm not raising my hand. I'm not the perfect human specimen. There's a point when our relationship with our physical body turns out to be all the things that don't work right anymore. It's your knee, it's your back, it's your eyesight, it's your hips, But when God designed us, He put a lot of wisdom and thought. And we're going to just go through different aspects. And so if you, hopefully, whether you like biology or not, hopefully I'm going to keep this sort of at a nice pace and keep it interesting. But we're just going to look at some things. We're going to make some observations. At the end, I want us to sort of think through all the things that we've talked about. And I want you to think, does that lead me towards design or accident? Do all these aspects of the human body lead me towards design or accident? Let's start at the bottom. Let's think about your feet. And this is going to be participative. I'm not going to force you to do anything, but the more you participate with me, the more you're going to get out. I want everybody to stand up. Now, I wore inappropriate shoes by some people's standards, so I could slip them off. If you got shoes you can slip off, do it if you want. I'm not going to say you have to, but it's better to feel the floor with your feet. Okay. Now, let's remember Steve Newton. There's a point when you raise your foot in the shower, and if you're not stable, let's use wisdom, okay? Take your hands off the pew in front of you if you can, and raise on your toes. Here we go. Okay, now if you can, back on your heels. Be careful, don't fall backwards. All right, now try to rock side to side a little bit. Notice your feet. You feel how your feet are changing? Okay, you can sit down if you'd like. I'll put my shoes back on because I guarantee somebody is creeped out that I just took these off, so. Okay, so you feel all that. I don't know where your relationship with your feet is, and you're going, Andy, I don't really have a relationship with my feet. Yes, you do. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you think your feet are ugly, if you think they're cute. I'm going to put my camp in. Nobody's got cute feet. My personal opinion, even the cutest feet are sort of gross looking. Okay. I don't know if you think your feet are cute. I don't know if you think your feet are smelly. I don't know if you think your feet are ticklish. I don't know if they're ticklish or not. Interesting fact, and my kids can attest to this. You're not going to believe it. My feet don't stink. Everything else on my body is fair game, but my feet, I'm telling you, I can run on the treadmill for an hour, and my feet will not stink. It's like my superpower, right? But I don't know. I don't know what you think about your feet. The reality, though, is feet are pretty stinking amazing. There are 26 bones, hint, hint, kids, look at your paper. There are 26 bones, 33 joints, more than 100 muscles, tendons, and ligaments, and over 7,000 nerve endings in your feet. In fact, 1/4 of all the bones in the body are in the feet, and if those are out of alignment, everything else becomes out of alignment. Your feet have a lot of complexity to them, just those feet. In fact, the skin on the bottom of your feet are 20 times thicker than anywhere else on your body. The total force on your feet after an average day of walking is hundreds of tons, about a fully loaded cement truck. Okay, that's an average day of walking. So our UPS drivers, Peter, John, Steve, retired, there's a reason your feet hurt, because you're doing a lot more than the average. You're probably more at the 3 to 4 cement truck load at the end of the day. You will walk 115,000 miles in a lifetime. Just for comparison, the equator is just under 25,000 miles. So in a lifetime, your feet will walk, on average, 115,000 miles. And when your heel leaves the ground, so when you're walking, your heel leaves the ground, about half of your body weight is on your toes. For some of us, that's more than others. Half of your body weight is on your toes. They even say that there are a lot of diseases, a lot of other issues within your body, your organ systems, that you can see signs of it in your feet before it'll show up on any other test. Your feet are your foundation. They might be ugly, they might be stinky, they might be this or that, but man, they're amazing. The design of your feet. The next time you have the opportunity to be outside barefoot, or the next time that you have your shoes off at the end of the day and they just ache a little bit and you're either rubbing them yourself or like my wife Christine likes to do, get me to rub them for her. The next time you're reaching in the kitchen on your tippy toes to get something off that top shelf, just think about all the design and everything that's going into just that simple movement with your feet. All right, next participative activity. Shut your eyes, no peeking. Shut your eyes, no peeking. No peeking. Navy, stop it, no peeking. Shut your eyes, keep them closed. You're going to ruin the entire sermon if you peek. Shut your eyes, don't look. No fair. Scott McAfee, I saw you. Don't do it. Keep your eyes shut. Almost done. No worries. Pretty close. All right, don't open them. When I say open, don't open them. When I say open, find the red dot. Open them. Where's the red dot? Show of hands who's found the red dot. Okay. Did anybody also see a green dot? Did anybody see Maddie's face? Okay. Silly, I know. But you know what you just did? Think about all the things your eyes just did. You think about it for just a second. So, first of all, did you realize they were instantly on? Now, I know in the morning when I wake up, it takes me a little bit to focus on my phone when I'm checking the time and all that stuff. But did you notice it's not like there was a warm-up here. It's not like your computer was booting up. You opened your eyes and immediately there they were, right? Okay, do you notice you also distinguished between colors? You saw the green dot, right? That's not red, is it? So you kept looking. How many actually saw the green dot first? Anybody? And you knew that wasn't right. Okay. So then you found the red dot, and so you distinguished. I know this is simple stuff, but we don't think about this, do we? Do you know what else was happening as you were looking from dot to dot? What else were your eyes doing? They were changing focus. Has anybody taken a picture with their phone before? And you go from far to close, and what happens? You actually can see. Did anybody notice that whole zzz? Maybe you heard it. You got a problem if you heard something going on, right? But no, and then how many people saw Maddie's face? Now, maybe you saw it was a face. It's not as big as I'd hoped it was. It's still cute. But how many of you saw the face and then saw that it was Maddie? So then well, that's just not colors. That's recognition. And I know the brain's involved and all that sort of thing. But just in that one simple exercise, your eyes were instantly on. You focused multiple distances without even noticing it. You distinguished between colors, and you recognized an image. The eyes are amazing. And we'll see more if this works. Maybe. Maybe the batteries just died. Oh. We already saw the foot. There we go. Your eyes have over 200 million working parts. 200 million. Your eyes process over 36,000 pieces of information a day and will see 24 million different images in a lifetime, on average. Your eye muscles are the fastest and most active muscles. The fastest and most active. And you will blink about 5.2 million times in a single year. You function 100% at any moment and require no rest. Your eyes do. Think about that. Think about any other muscle that you work out. If you walk that 115,000 miles a year, you get tired. You have to rest. Your eyes can be instantly on, and they function at any given moment, requiring no rest. You're capable of detecting over 10 million different colors. Your eyes can distinguish over 10 million different colors, and we will focus on 50 things per second. Faster than any camera. 50 things per second. I mean, right now, you're looking around and your eyes are changing focus and you're not even aware that it's happening. But yet, think about just the most modern camera and how much awareness you have of it changing its focus. And it's interesting with all that work. Oh, and besides that, I didn't put it on the slide, but your eyes are extremely unique to you. Extremely unique. In fact, they're more unique than even your thumbprint. Thumbprint has about 40 different characteristics. The iris has 256 individual characteristics to identify that they're your eyes. And it's funny, with all that went into your eyes, God still tells us in 2 Corinthians 5:7 to walk by faith, not by sight. We walk by faith, not by sight. Let's consider your lungs. Let's consider your lungs. Again, participative. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Deep breath in. Hold it. Deep breath out. One more. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Now, if that last exercise, oh no, what's he going to do? Why are my eyes closed? Where's the red dot? If that stressed you out, gave you anxiety, you should feel a little more relaxed. In fact, breathing exercises, there's a lot of really strong data behind it. You can ask my wife. She has done a lot of reading on this. They will help change your mood. Breathing exercises can lower your heart rate, lower your blood pressure. They will actually boost your immune system if you do regular breathing exercises. And they will lower anxiety and stress just by breathing. How much do we take breathing for granted? You do until you don't you? In fact, not to get too personal, there's some families in here that probably don't take breathing for granted as much as they used to. Because when a loved one suffers certain illnesses that start to restrict their breathing. When Natalie was 10, we went on a backpacking trip. And I take my kids when they turn 10 to Yosemite. Stevens is coming up this summer because of COVID. It got delayed. But we go on this and it's a pretty serious backpacking trip. And we gain like 6,000, 7,000 feet of elevation. We're up over 10,000 feet. It's pretty good. Well, Natalie and I, she was 10, and we went out. We were about 4 or 5 miles from the car, 6 or 7 miles from the car, the trailhead. And we were up at over 10,000 feet. And beautiful day. We pitched our tent. We're out there playing around, exploring, your dad and his daughter and 10 years old. And we go to lay down in this 10,000 foot elevation. And my asthmatic daughter starts to have an asthma attack. I rummaged through my backpack to find her inhaler, which I left 5, 6 miles back in the car. And so all night, I laid in the tent with my baby girl on my chest, breathing in and out, listening to her gasp for every breath. I've never looked at breathing the same since. We take breathing for granted. The lungs are an amazing organ. Oh, there we go. The lungs are responsible for respiration, kids, the process of breaking down oxygen to be used by cells for energy. So it breaks down the oxygen, and the oxygen can do other things, that sort of thing. There are 1,500 miles of airways in your lungs. The internal surface of your lungs, if you could, I do not recommend doing this at home, but the internal surface of your lungs, if you were able to spread that out, it would cover a tennis court. That sounds a little creepy, doesn't it? We'll move on. On a daily basis, you breathe in 2,100 to 2,400 gallons of air. 2,100 to... How many... So here's a balloon. This is a pink one. How many balloons do you think that is? 2,100 to 2,400 gallons. Is it more than one? Is it more than 3? More than... I don't have a box big enough. I could keep going. It's about 8,000 to 10,000 balloons. Every day, your lungs are breathing in enough air in and out enough to blow up 8,000 to 10,000 balloons. It's absolutely incredible. 14 to 16 breaths every minute. That's at rest. If you do a lot of strenuous activity, John Pettit, when you're running to deliver that box because it's already 9 o'clock at night and you miss 4 stops, and he never does that. He's an expert. But depending on what kind of activity you do, that could be more, but 14 to 16 breaths every minute, over 20,000 a day, 7.4 million a year, over 500 million in a lifetime. That's the work that your lungs do. In Psalm chapter 39, I'm going to read Psalm 39 very quickly, verse 5. David says, "Behold, you have made my days as handbreadths, and my lifetime as nothing in your sight. Surely every man at his best is a mere breath." Every man at his best is a mere breath. Your heart. Let's speed through some of these. We only have a couple left. Your heart. Go ahead, and if you know how to do it, find your, feel it. Or your little kids, parents, if you got a little kid that can sort of put their head on your chest so they can try to hear it, hear your heartbeat. Just feel it for a minute. Mine's a little faster than usual because I'm up here yakking at you, jumping around like a lunatic. Feel that? You've got a heart that beats 100,000 times a day. 100,000 times a day. 3,600,000 times a year. 2.5 billion times in a lifetime. Anybody auto mechanic related? Dustin, I know you love cars. Would you like a car engine to be that reliable? I mean, you get 100,000 miles out of a car these days, you're going to start replacing parts. 2.5 billion times in an average lifetime. Your heart pumps 1.5 gallons. 1.5 gallons of blood every minute. This is only a gallon. I didn't have anything big enough. You should be thankful I didn't color it deep red. This is 1 gallon. So in 2 minutes time, 3 of these have gone through your heart. For children, it's a little less. But as an adult, 3 of these. So just the time you've been sitting here, think about how much blood continues over and over. And that blood is that's 2,000 gallons of blood a day through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. In a lifetime, the heart will pump 1.5 million barrels of blood, about 200 train cars, produces enough energy each day to drive a truck 20 miles. That's to the moon and back in a lifetime. Man, we got a renewable energy source right there. And the heart begins to beat just 4 weeks after conception. Just 4 weeks. And if you want to read about the heart, read Psalm 73:26. My heart and my strength may fail, but the nearness of God is my good. The brain. Very quickly, we got to participate still. Very quickly, think about what did you have for breakfast? Got it in your mind? What did you have for breakfast? What's 5 plus 4? Okay. Picture your mama. Picture your mom in your, okay? Now touch your nose. How did all that happen? You know exactly how, the picture of your mom came to mind, your memory of breakfast, the 5 plus 4. Did you have to consciously tell you saw how did all that happen, right? It's your brain. It's your brain. Look at this. It comprises only 2% of the total body weight, but uses 20% of the total energy and oxygen intake. There are 100,000 miles of blood vessels in your brain. It is estimated to contain 100 billion brain cells. Each brain cell or neuron connects with about 40,000 synapses. This is 100 trillion electrical connections. Okay, I'm going to stop. This is my last visual. Okay, this is Stephen's money, in case you guys want a loan. This is Stevens. This is 25 $1 bills. If you've got $1, take it out and hand it to your kid. Kids, you got to give it back. Okay, that dollar bill is 0.043, if I'm correct. Yeah, 0.0043 of an inch thick. Okay, here's 25 of them. 100 of them makes it about 0.43 of an inch thick, so just under half an inch. He only had 25. Kid's allowance needs to go up, I guess. But you see that thickness? That's 25, so that's 1/4 of 100. Now just listen to this real quick. Okay, we're trying to get an idea of 100 trillion. So think of that $1 bill, how thin that is, okay? You stack up 1,000 of these, that's 4.3 inches, right? You stack up 1 billion of these, it's 67.9 miles. Got that? Look how thin that is. You stack up 1 billion of these, it's 67.9 miles. You stack up 100 trillion of these, and it measures 6,786,616 miles. That's 100 trillion. Just give you an idea of that number. No, you cannot have Stephen's money. Our brains have 100 trillion electrical connections, firing at speeds of up to 300 miles an hour. There are as many as 10,000 specific types of neurons in your brain with different functions. As a man thinketh in himself, so is he. Let's wrap up with the nervous system. I'm going to try to do through this real quick. This is going to get a little bit technical, but this is sort of the whole point that I need to get to. If you will, go ahead and touch the pew in front of you. Feel it? Feel that? Okay, so what's happening right there is you're using sensory receptors. How's it feel? Think of words that would describe how that feels. Okay? You can let go if you don't. So you're using sensory receptors in your peripheral nervous system. So you got the central nervous system, your brain and your spinal cord, and then you got the peripheral, which is sort of the brain and spinal cord's connection with the outside world. But your nervous system is monitoring both internal and external, right? And when you touch, when those sensory receptors feel something, it is sending transmissions, information through your nervous system back to your brain so that it feels it, it sends it, it then interprets what you're feeling, and then that's why you go, oh, that's hard. Or maybe the pew was a little cold in front of you. Oh, that's cold. So it's those sensory receptors that are sending all that information, so your brain, without all of that working and the feedback, and then it tells you whether to hold on or grip, or let's just pretend that pew was really, really hot. What would you have done? Whoo! Right? So you feel it, it goes to the brain, and very quickly your brain says, don't touch that. Has anybody ever touched something really, really hot and got off before there was any damage done? You know how fast that happens? Your brain the information goes in and the response goes out, right? That's what your nervous system is doing, helping you both internal and external, okay? The nervous system is a collection of nerve cells or neurons and body tissues that regulate the body's response to both external and internal stimulus. Organs, glands, vessels are controlled and coordinated by individual neurons, and each structure would be ineffective without nerve input and feedback. So we're familiar with the external, but the internal, like telling my blood vessels to dilate, to get larger, depending on, like right now as I'm sweating. There are internal signals going on saying, you're too hot, release the fluids. We need to cool this guy down. Right, that's my nervous system regulating internally what's going on because it's feeling and it's making those changes. Without the nervous system, all of our organs would be useless. All those things we've talked about, plus the kidneys, plus the liver, plus a whole bunch of really cool stuff that I didn't want to keep you here till midnight. A lot of interesting stuff is going on inside your body right now. And without the nervous system giving us input and helping us respond and change the pH balance and all these other things, your organs would be useless. And if that's not enough, I hope you're as excited about this stuff as I am. This stuff is interesting. You got the somatic and the autonomic nervous systems, which some of that stuff you control it. You're saying, like right now, you're saying, he's talking too long, my bottom hurts, this pew is hard, I need to shift to this hip. Right? You're thinking about those things. And so you're consciously shifting back and forth because I'm talking too long and your bottom hurts and the pew is hard, and so you need to shift from hip to hip. Or you're reaching for that piece of gum because he's talking too long, my stomach's growling, I'm hungry, I need that gum to help get me through, and I have no idea when this guy's going to stop. But none of you are sitting there right now thinking, beat, 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 beat. 2 billion, I got to get to 2.5 billion in a lifetime. Keep beating. None of you are consciously causing your heart to beat. Now, you can consciously hold your breath, but none of you are sitting there consciously saying, keep breathing, just keep breathing, just keep breathing, right? All of that, and I won't go through, this is what I've just described in language that's smarter than me, but basically we're monitoring those sensory input receptors. Those sensory receptors, they're monitoring things such as heat, light, pressure, smell, electrolytic levels, all sorts of things, both internal and external stimulus. And then we're converting that to a chemical signal which is sent to the brain. And that transmission takes place, and like I said, up to 300 miles an hour. Boom, information is flying quick. And then the brain thinks or interprets it and figures out what the best response is. And some of that is us consciously knowing, I need to take my jacket off because I'm too hot. I need to shift in my seat because my bum hurts. I need to do this or that. But a lot of it is changing just because the body knows what the body needs. And it's making adjustments that you have no idea that it's doing. And that's that motor output, that sensory response. Now, here's the whole point of all this. If I lost you, I apologize, but here's the point of all this. You've got all these different organs, these amazing complex organs. I mean, think about the eye, 200 million individual parts. 200 million. You've got the lungs and the functioning that they're doing, and the heart. It's just going and going and going. You've got the feet and everything that they're doing, and the kidneys and the livers and all these other complicated systems. And they're all connected via this nervous system, providing input and giving feedback and making slight adjustments or big adjustments based on what's needed. All that's happening. Okay? The system, and this is one last complex term, is irreducible complexity is the idea. Irreducible complexity. A single system composed of several well-matched interacting parts that contribute to the basic function, wherein the removal of any one of the parts causes the system to effectively cease functioning. Now, there's parts of us that we can remove and keep functioning, but there's a lot of parts of us that we can't. And the question that I have as we consider design or accident, as we go back to our original question, which is, what is the preponderance of evidence? And this complex system, this bag of flesh that I'm walking around in up here, the vast majority of which I'm not even controlling. It's just doing it the way it was designed to do it. All of that is working together to function at a high level. Did that happen over millions and millions of years by accident? Where some of those systems relying on other parts of the system, how would that even have worked? How would I have developed this part and not without this part and vice versa and all these other things? And it's just, what does logic lead you to believe? Now, you might be somebody who you've always believed. But yeah, okay, I hope you believe even stronger now. I hope you are absolutely in awe of your God. I hope you just considered simple. I hope that from now on, when you just go to grab something with your hand, and you do it almost without thinking, but you see how perfectly designed that is to pick something up with just the right amount of pressure, knowing exactly the depth that you need to go, the speed at which to go. When you happen to notice your heart rate is raised because you went up that flight of stairs too quick. When you're walking on the grass in your bare feet. When you're breathing in the fresh air. I hope you just stop and contemplate. We are the product of a wise and wonderful God. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. And if you have doubts, if you've heard a line of logic, if you've been taught a certain way to think that, no, it's an accident. I'm just one step away from an ape. What does the preponderance of evidence lead you to believe? That this was all just randomly put together by accident over years and years of mistake after mistake? Or is there design? Is there beautiful, amazing design? And then the last and most important point is these bodies weren't built to last forever. In fact, I guarantee as I was going through some of those body systems, one of the first thoughts you had was, what's wrong with yours? Heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States of men and women. Your heart is amazingly designed, but it's also coming to an end. I'm very much aware every time I looked at my Bible, my eyes don't work the way they used to. Some of you, maybe it's your lungs. Somebody, maybe as soon as we say amen and you get up and you're going to feel the pain in your feet. Maybe you feel the pain in your back right now. Our bodies were not designed to go on forever. And the very fact that we have a designer should make us ask questions about what's next. What's next? When this body comes to an end, whether it's a screeching halt in front of a bus or whether it's over time, it slowly just winds down. Whether our relationship with our body is the cancer we're fighting right now or whether it's something else, this life will come to an end and we will have to answer to our Creator. And our Creator didn't just design us with wisdom and love and fearfully and wonderfully weave us together. He created us for a purpose. And that purpose is to love and to serve and to submit and to bring glory and honor to Him. And if we're not doing that in this fleshly body, we will not receive the immortal body to live with Him forever. And so if we can help you in any way to be right with your Creator, if we can help you to serve better, to submit more, or if you need to become a child of God, let's do that while we stand and sing.